hungry.
Okay, so here's the deal. Are you with me on the deal? It's the last meeting before Christmas, so everybody's like that. And there's food, I think, except sure, we're just technically there's fun stuff, and so everybody's hyped up. And in addition, I asked, hey guys, listen, I asked you to read about government. Oh, Mrs. Ferguson, how could you make us read pages and pages of government right before Christmas? So here's what we're gonna do to pull this out, all right? First of all, we're gonna go over your questions, but I wanna talk a little bit about government in general, because it's kind of interesting. I wanna look at our stories, but I also, if we have time, and I'm pretty sure we'll have time, I brought something funny to read. Like just little bits of things that are just funny. I promise you they will make you laugh. It's from this book called Anguished English, and it's stupid things people have done in writing. You know, mistakes they have made that they end up saying something that's just ridiculously funny. In court and stuff. I mean, public places, in newspapers, church bulletins are particularly funny. So this guy collects mistakes people make that tend to be hilarious. And we engage in that. And then we'll feel like we're doing something educational because we're talking about language use, but we're actually just having a good time and laughing. So here is what Dorothy Mills says in the very first page of the very long chapter I asked you to read on government. She said, people can be ruled three ways. By one person, by several people, or by many, or everybody. So let's do the easy one first. What do we call it when one person rules you?
Monarchy.
A monarchy. We call this a monarchy. And do you guys know that mono means one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And archon is really the Greek word for a ruler. Monarch just means one ruler in English. What do we call it when everybody takes a share in government? There you go. So, and I know, see, I love this sort of thing. I love where words come from. The kratos part means ruling, and the deme is the division of the Greek, like a province, sort of, or an area. Okay, so all the demes get to rule. What do we call it? This is not very well known. What do we call it? Just a few people get to rule.
Anarchy.
Right? No, I didn't put that one. That's when no one rules.
No, that's the wrong word, you're right.
Yeah, I think you may be, yes. Anarchy, ana means none. There's no ruler. I hope we can all see that would be a good. Well, here's the thing. You know what? If you sat down to play, I don't know, Monopoly, and you just decided there were no rules. That'd be awesome. You know, do you ever play Monopoly with people? Okay, show of hands. I need to take a poll. How many of you put money in free parking and then take it out when you land? Or you put money in the middle and you take it out when you land on free parking?
Don't, but I played it before.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
But this is not in the rules.
It isn't?
This is a custom. And so it's a shock to my system. I sit down to play Monopoly and I throw money in the middle. They're like, why is the money in the middle? I'm like, because it's a free parking. You don't do that. And then they show me the rules. Look, I didn't. It's what we do. So even when there's one rule that we don't agree on, it's kind of hard. If there were no rules. So my youngest son, we played Go Fish. You know Go Fish? And our Go Fish had colors. You know, if you grouped there was pig fish and the red fish, yellow fish, whatever. And you got a set and you laid it down. So he was, I don't know, 5 or 6. We're playing Go Fish. And he got this idea that he decided to assign point values to the colors. Like if you got a red set, it was worth this. The points changed. And his sets were always worth more points than my sets every time we played. This is anarchy to me. No. And it was a joke. He would laugh. It was funny. But he should always get more points than me, no matter what colors I got. Because there were no rules in his mind. It's just I changed the rules to suit me. So I don't think we want to pursue Anarchy. Maybe it would be fun briefly, but the moment that somebody else decides they want your stuff because it's cool and there's no rules that tell them they can't take your stuff, I think right away, we want some rules. Okay, so let's go back to the several. So does anybody have any, I can think of two names you might call it, but it has a technical name.
No.
It's called an oligarchy.
Oh, that's what it was.
Okay, I felt like when you said anarchy, we're edging further. Oligos means a few. In other words, this is when a few guys get together and they say, we're smarter and wiser than everybody else and we're going to be in charge. And you know what? If they are smarter, wiser, and hopefully more virtuous than other people, that might be a really good system. Yeah, John.
Like the giver.
Yeah, and making those decisions for everybody else because they're smarter. Yeah, exactly. So
I
So we
didn't finish the giver because I really did not like it.
well, because nobody wants to. People want to make their own decisions, don't they? Wasn't it? Remind me, Jonathan. Isn't it about what they're going to do for a living? Is that what's being decided for them in the giver? Because it was years ago that I read it.
And the date.
To make them okay with it.
No, like when they get into puberty, they have
Oh.
to
Well, see, I wonder if there's a reason why there's so many
and they're
stories.
given babies.
But there's so many stories about groups of people making decisions for every, like the Hunger Games is a little like that too. A group of people is making decisions for everybody. We don't like that. We don't want a group of people making all our decisions. But if most of us are kind of not very wise, maybe it's better for us, I don't know. Okay, so I heard Orrin say, United States of America, he's really close because technically we're a republic, and I believe that Orrin knows this. Do you guys know what the difference is between a republic and a democracy? They're very close. Democrat and Republican. Well, unfortunately not anymore. Unfortunately, there's not very good people on both sides. So in a democracy, everything you want to do, everybody votes on it. Everything you want to do, the whole country votes on it. In a republic, we vote for people who will represent us. Does that make sense? So locally, we vote, like if they want to raise taxes to fix the roads in Davenport or for schools or whatever, we vote on that. But we don't vote on every single law that the nation passes. We vote for people, and we send them to Congress, right? We send them to state, and we send them to Washington, D.C., and we say, will you please make good decisions on our behalf? If they don't, we chuck them out the next time. We do not do that. We don't vote for them again, right? Okay, so we know what this looks like because America. We don't really know what this looks like. I don't think there are any countries that are ruled by just a few people. Sometimes they call this an aristocracy. Canada. Aristos means the best. It's the best people in the world. But I want to talk about this thing. What's a tyranny? A tyranny is a monarchy that's not legal. Does that make sense? So if you grab power and you are in charge, why am I pointing to the gentleman in the back? Like they're apt to grab power and become a tyrant. Like if you grab power,
You don't want it.
and you're not supposed to have the power.
You don't want it.
Okay, so how do you get to be a monarch?
Get voted in.
Okay, what choice is you could get voted? I mean, this does happen in places that you just vote for a new one when the old one dies. How else do you get to be a monarch? Okay, you inherit it. You get it because your family is rulers, yes.
Or your older brother was the game.
Or yes, so it's to inherit it from your brother or another family member.
Your uncle, that's like.
Okay, here's a question for you guys. Which one of these is best?
Voted.
Inherit.
Voted, because some people
Oh, I know.
are real dumb.
But some people
What do
don't
you
have
think,
the
Zach?
program
Yeah.
are good.
Okay, we're taking anarchy off the table as being the
But
best.
it's good if everyone can defend themselves, we can.
But, so there's a famous book by a man named Rousseau, and he said this is the way it was in the beginning, that everybody just took whatever they wanted, and the strongest people defended themselves. So here's the thing, let's follow it out. There's anarchy. No rules. People are just roaming the streets taking your stuff. Who's gonna be okay?
Now, king.
There's no king. But you said it. The people who can do what?
Defend themselves.
The people who can defend themselves and survive. What about those of us who
What
can't?
if somebody just doesn't have?
What if you have a gun?
They could die.
Hey, guys, stay with me, stay with me. I want to get to the funny book. Right? What if you can't defend yourself?
Then you're dead. Defend me.
Or I have options. I can't defend myself, but my neighbor is really good at it. What might I do?
And,
Team up.
Cut a deal with my neighbor.
but wouldn't he just steal it from you anyway?
I don't know. Maybe he feels like I've got some other asset that would be useful.
Or what if he's just hitting the money and then kills you and then takes all the money?
This is a possibility. I'm gonna take my chances.
I'm not.
So do you see that in an anarchy, eventually the strong people might gather other people around them, and then what do we have? A few people in charge.
A team.
We have the strong people in charge. We turned into something else. I don't think you could stay like that very long. Okay, I will cut to the chase. It's a trick question. Which one is best? It's a trick question. Because it depends on who the people are, right? Would you rather, we'll play would you rather. Would you rather live with a king who's godly and good like King David? Or would you rather live in a democracy or republic with a bunch of rotters who pass terrible laws?
Monarchy.
Monarchy.
How's that even?
I'm biased, so Republic.
But if the republic is full of people who are bad, but the monarch is good,
Because the monarchy can be count the monarchy.
a monarchy can't, see, there's more danger in the monarchy, right? Is that what you mean? Because if that person is bad, everything's bad.
The risk reward is. But democracy, you can't have democracy, because then people will just go like this. Who votes we take all Robert's stuff? I.
See, that's the thing.
Pay up, Robert.
If you have a democracy, is the majority of the people always right? Is what the majority of the people choose is not always right. Say we took a vote and the majority of you said that, I don't know, something silly like strawberry ice cream was the best ice cream. What? No,
No,
you're
wrong.
so wrong.
What?
Because chocolate is obviously superior.
Oh,
It's
wow.
going to be wrong.
Vanilla's obviously the best.
Thank you.
The best. The best chocolate.
The best.
Guys.
Ooh.
So, I need you to stop. I need you to stop. Shh. We can make a little progress. We're all excited. So, these are the choices. But this one is a trick choice. And here's why. Because Dorothy Mills, in her chapter, tells us there's different ways that monarchies can play out. And England and France had very different ways. So the first thing she talked about was England, because they both have kings. Remember, they're both this. They're none of these. They're both monarchies, but they're not the same. All monarchies are not the same. So the first question I asked you in the reading questions, do you guys remember what the Magna Carta is? Freedom? Okay. Remember King John, who was the thumb-sucking lion in the Disney Robin Hood? He was forced to sign a paper saying that Englishmen had certain rights. And they sound very familiar. Like, they can't arrest you and just throw you in prison without taking you to trial and telling you why. They can't. They can't just throw you in prison without a trial, and you get to be tried by your peers. You know, people like you. Not just, if I'm a peasant, I just get average people to judge me. Trial by jury. And it made another special rule. I'm gonna read it. It's got a funny name called scutage. I think scutage is funny to say. No scutage or aid shall be imposed in our kingdom, save by the common, and this is actually the second question. What could only be done by consent of the nobles? Let me read it again. No scutage or aid, read, taxes, shall be imposed in our kingdom, save by the common council of our kingdom. Everybody has to agree. If you want to raise taxes, king, you gotta call a group of people together and they have to say, we okay this money. If they don't, you don't get the money. Can you imagine how huge that is? Say you're the king and you want to go to war. You really want to go. You're going to invade Antarctica. Because, you know, it's a sitting duck. Nobody's there. You know, it's just waiting to be conquered, right? It says the kingdom of Antarctica. You're going to, and you call the council and they say, that's a stupid idea, king. Zero money is going to your campaign in Antarctica. Can you go? You've got no other way to raise money. And you need money for, well, it's a long way to Antarctica. You know, you need a lot of boats, you need a lot of coats, boots, gloves, things of this nature. In England, you couldn't be taxed without your consent.
What?
And in that case, if the King of England wants to do something that he needs money for, he can't do it.
So
If the nobles say no, I won't give you money.
so the nobles are actually the ones who are in charge.
They are, so, sort of, but the king can do many, he can give proclamations and decrees like this. So in England, they developed this idea that, hey, the king's gonna call his noblemen together. They call this today the House of Lords there. Do you guys know, in England, it's very much like America, except they have a king and we have a president. They have a House of Lords and we have a Senate. They have the House of Commons and we have a House of Representatives. This is not an accident. We came from England. You know, America came from England. And do you guys remember your American history? What ticked off the colonists? What made them finally, what kind of tax? What kind of special? Stupid tax, but there was a special, something I just said, Nathan. A tax without
Permission. Taxation without representation.
That was it. It goes back to Magna Carta. You can't tax us if we don't get to vote on it. And the colonists said, we have our own governments. You gave us charters. We set up Pennsylvania. We set up Maryland. We set up Virginia. And we tax ourselves. You don't get to do it. And King George said, oh yes, I will. I'll any tax I can get in. Because they're much higher than
Our
what they
taxes are
were
much
setting
higher
in.
than us, and it revolted at 1%, we're at like, I don't know.
We do
What
not
is
involve.
it at now? 10%, 10 times that much.
I was, why would anybody want to be taxed? Like you said, they don't get taxed without consent.
Can anybody think of a reason why I might vote, yes, I will pay money for the government to do this thing? What sort of things might the government do that I might be willing to pay for?
Make the roads better, or make
Take
the
this guy's
public
life,
things
give it to
better.
me.
Okay, so one at a time. So, Owen said, what we call it infrastructure improvements. That's a fancy way to say fixing roads and bridges and things like that. I don't want the bridge to fall down. And so I will pay the government so it will fix the bridge. What else did you say? Was it all of that nature?
Yeah, and then
Bridges,
they're
roads.
like, nowadays, like medical stuff.
Okay.
Defense.
Defenses. Zach, what did you say? What kind of things did you
I
say?
said, to give more, well, it really depends. I'll take a different one. War, because if you go to war, then you can steal the Frenchman's land or whoever.
Okay, so
You
sometimes
get their money.
Sometimes we have wars and we're all behind it. You know, America was solidly behind World War II. Americans were willing not only to pay money to the government, but go without them. Do you know that sugar was rationed? Sugar and rubber, because they needed it to make tires for and tracks for tanks and things like that. I should bring this in to show you guys. They gave every family, they're like little stamps that you tore off and you took to the store and it gave you your sugar or, you know, whatever it was that was being rationed, gasoline, whatever. And then when you ran out of stamps for that time period, you couldn't get any more until the stamps were reissued. And I have it, it's in a little leather pouch and there's a bunch of unused stamps. It's very, very cool. But
It's like socialism.
well, but it's all for the common good. If there's not enough stuff, and here's the difference, Jack, we're all behind it. We want to go to war because the Japanese bombed us and the Germans are taking over the world.
Wait.
And I'm willing, what?
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, the Japanese.
You didn't know
bombed us.
that? Boy.
And so we all agree, I would like to help in this effort. And that's different than the government saying you will all share everything, whether you like it or not. Did you have a comment?
No.
Micah, what's your comment?
Didn't they do that in Germany, but it wasn't with consent?
Probably, yes, they've done it. Although it's hard to say, I don't know how much the Germans were really gung-ho on the war. A lot of times I hear that I know some people who have immigrated from Germany, and they said that, you know, the average person really wasn't loving the war, really wasn't supportive of what they were doing, or didn't really fully know the extent of what they were doing. But here's some real life examples for us. I get, and your parents do too, if you own a house, you get property tax statement. Every year you pay property tax. And what's listed on there? The library. I pay money every year for the library to be open. I'm happy to do that. I use the library a lot. I pay money for the schools. Now, I didn't use the schools, but a lot of people do. And I think they take too much money, but okay, I'm all right with that. People should learn to read and, you know. So I don't know if that answers the question. I can't even remember who asked the question. Why would we vote for somebody? Was it you, Nathan? Why would we vote to give money? But sometimes we do. Sometimes we do vote to give money. In England, the king could do nothing without the people. So they developed this. Hey guys, calm down. They developed this system. Here, I'm going to take away the oligarchy. In England, the king had to work together with, instead of Congress, they call it Parliament. The two houses of Parliament. He had to call them together. Before we talk about what happened in France, let me just ask you guys, this is the third question I asked you. Why were England and France always fighting each other in the later Middle Ages? We're going to read a lot. Next week, I think, or, you know, after, yeah. You're going to read a lot about this. England and France are always fighting. Let me read something that Dorothy Mills tells you. This is weird to remember. Hang on. Are you hanging? Oh, I can't find it. Oh, I hate it when I can't. Oh, I got it. In 1180, hey, I want you to be quiet, guys. In 1180, Philip II, called Philip Augustus, became king of France. Listen to this. 15 years old. He inherited a country, France, in which the King of England ruled more land than the King of France. The King of England owned more of France than King of France. Do you remember how this happened? Something big happened.
Wasn't it like because that was Hastings?
Bro.
William the Conqueror conquered. Sorry about that. William the Conqueror was the Duke of Normandy in France, and he conquered England. The kings of England own parts of France. And what they keep doing, they keep marrying other families who own other parts of France.
That's moral.
And so it was smart. And so the poor king of France owns almost zero, well, not almost zero, but like half of France belongs to, over half of France belongs to England. And England keeps coming over and doing things that the king of France doesn't like. So, do you guys remember the whole idea of vassals and lords and the feudal system? Do you remember this? The king of England is a vassal of the king of France because he owns land from her. But if a vassal doesn't do what their lord tells them, the lord kings get them in trouble. So the French kings kept saying to the English kings, dude, you're not performing your vassally duties. We're going to take away your land. John was the worst. He wouldn't do anything. And while John was king, they lost almost all of France. England lost almost all of France. England was so ticked with John. Like how? He was just so nasty and he was so ornery. He wouldn't do anything. And so Dorothy Mills printed this edict. It says, the court of France has declared that the king of England should be deprived of all the fiefs which he held from the king of France for not fulfilling the conditions on which the said fiefs were held, fiefs or land, and for having disobeyed his suzerain, his lord, in almost every way. That was John, almost every way. France got its land back, and France developed a system where the lords got called together. But the king told them what he was going to do.
It had to agree.
Yeah, basically. King gives orders and the others obey. So do you see the difference between a place where the king calls a bunch of people and he says, I want to do such and such. Will you agree to this and give me money for it? And they can say yes or no. Here, a king says, I want money for such and such because I'm going to war and they just have to go. Big thumbs up on that.
Oh, $2 million.
You got it. Okay. We call this a parliamentary monarchy or a constitutional monarchy. There's rules. The king can't just do anything. We call this an absolute. An absolute monarchy. The king can do anything he wants. And everybody has to be able to do that. Does that make sense? That sums up that whole long chapter. That's really the important stuff in that chapter. That England and France took different paths. America took the path it did because it was from England. But France took a very ugly path. The absolute rulers got more and more and more absolute. And they were very rich. I got to go to Versailles, the palace where the French kings lived, except it was closed. I was in Paris for 4 days and it was a holiday. Everything was closed. The Louvre was closed. I couldn't go inside. But we wandered around the grounds. It was this enormous palace that the French king lived in. And he did whatever he wanted to while people starved. And people got fed up with it. And do you know what they did about it in France eventually?
Okay.
I forgot.
The French Revolution.
The French Revolution. They killed their king. They chopped his head off. They chopped Marie Antoinette, his queen's head off. They chopped a lot of heads off.
I heard they chopped some dogs' heads off.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a dog that looks like it was friendly to the king. I think that's the king rebellion that we said, you're not giving us our rights. You're not giving us our Magna Carta. But in France, it was scary for a while. Yeah,
I heard that Henry VIII of England was an absolute monarch. How did he become that if it was a parliamentary monarch?
well, different English kings at different times had ministers or friends in the government that would do what they wanted. If you are, what do I say? If you threaten people enough, they will do what you want. Does that make sense? Even if it's not legal for you to threaten them. Henry VIII took the church, and he said, I'm going to be the head of the church. One of his officials, named Thomas More, this guy, and really cared for Henry, said, no, you can't do that. And they killed him. They killed Thomas More. I think that's the most notorious thing. He pushed to get some divorces through, too, that weren't legal. He's famously married 6 different women.
8.
No, he's Henry VIII, but he only had 6 wives. He divorced one, killed one died. Then he divorced one, killed one, and one died. It's real easy to remember.
I thought one survived.
Oh, one survived. I'm sorry.
Weren't he killed?
Sure,
yeah.
Here was Anne Boleyn's head.
Divorce beheaded, divorce beheaded.
But, yeah, so it's easy to remember. But some were very weak and they got pushed around by the parliament. Some were very strong and they tried to push the parliament. In fact, maybe you guys don't know this, it got so bad that eventually the king who pushed hardest, Charles I, they started a war. They started a war against the king and they captured him and they chopped his head. The
I'm
English
actually
also
happy
chopped
for though. He needed to or go.
What?
Or are we so tired?
No, this was Charles I.
He needed to go. No, Charles first would.
They chopped his head off too.
No, I'm thinking of a different guy.
But, okay.
I wish they
Let's-
chopped their head
We
off.
could talk about England and France all day. I'm pretty sure you don't want to. So why don't we move, because I already sent your parents an email telling you, okay? Here's the deal. I teach one more class this fall. I have 16 classes instead of 15. You have 15. My next class doesn't meet till December 19th. Next Tuesday, I do what I'm doing right now with them, right? And then the next Tuesday, I do a new class. So it's like almost 2 weeks from now. This is completely optional. If your parents want you to do the class, you can watch the video. I will record it for you. And then it would be the next page in the book. You know, it would be chapter 21. That's what I'm going to talk about on December 19th. If you don't want to watch that, read week 16. Read chapter 22. That's what we're going to talk about the next time we're actually here together. Here's the other thing you're going to miss. My kids read Macbeth the next time. And it's the only Shakespeare we're reading. But here's what I did. I sat down in my house and I recorded myself reading all of Macbeth. I sit there and it's like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. There's a playlist on YouTube. And what I would say, if you want to read Macbeth, grab your copy of Macbeth, go to my YouTube, I sent your parents a link, and just hit Act 1 and read. And I read it and then I stop and talk about it. You know, I say, do you see what he did? Isn't that a crazy thing to do? I make a commentary on it. And each one's like 30 or 40 minutes long. So if you want to do that, if you would like to read Macbeth with me, that's all there. And your parents have been sent an email telling them all of this, okay? But it's up to you guys. But I won't see you until January 10th, I think. And we'll be doing week 16, right? I will also send your parents another email next week, just reminding them of this, okay? But I'm sorry that it turned out that that's scheduled Macbeth. And that's, I don't know that the audiobook would stop and tell you what it means and what's going on.
No, look out.
So I did that. I said, but here's what this phrase means. Or did you notice how he said this earlier? So I made a commentary on it. Okay, let's talk about the Canterbury Tales. Yeah. Some of which were boring. Well, you know what? Some of which were boring. I'm so going to say that. Some of them are boring.
The last tale was boring.
What, the philosopher?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of funny, but Yeah.
It ended very abruptly.
It ended abruptly. Here's why. Chaucer worked on this book throughout his life over many years, and he died and it still wasn't done. So collections of the cases, because he didn't finish it. So yes, it ends. Hunt, the real one, also ends abruptly. Not the retelling. Okay. We don't know who won. Maybe one of you, when you're grown, you should make it your life's goal to finish the Canterbury Tales in poetry. You can write tales. Yes, to finish that. I'm sure the world would be grateful to have the rest of the Canterbury. Okay, I asked you, the first thing I asked you, this is easy, I think. Were there any stories you read for this week that were very familiar sounding?
Yes.
Tell me one.
Lady Ragnall.
The Lady Ragnall, the lonely lady in this, the Unknown Bride. It's the same story. It's a story of an ugly lady who's actually enchantedly ugly. She's not really ugly. Who forces a knight to marry her and then turns out to be beautiful when he, agrees. Is there another story that sounded like something you've read before?
Yeah.
What was it?
I'm Wonder.
King Arthur.
The bronze horse, the brazen Cambuscan and the brazen horse. Where did we read that? Where did we read that story? About a guy who could turn over?
And King Arthur.
It was not. It was in the Arabian Nights.
That's what I was thinking.
It was in the Arabian Nights. There was a guy, and he went to China or something and found a.
Oh,
Yeah, remember?
I never have the same story.
Oh, that's right. Yours ends up being different. So here's the thing, and here's my question for you. What's up with authors that just steal stories from other people?
They're weird.
Okay, they're weird. What did you say, Warren?
They're friends.
They could be friends. If they, or they could be enemies after the guy steals the story. Almost all the stories in the Canterbury Tales are taken from someone else.
So you just have to pick a random story and all right, this is the story. All right, I'll finish the Canterbury Tales, never mind.
But here's the thing. Hey guys, back in the back, here with me. Chaucer retold them in his own way. Do you remember when I gave you guys stories and then you retold them to me? I said, retell the story, but you can embellish it if you want to. You can add characters or set it wherever you want. That's what Chaucer did. There weren't really rules back then about using other people's material. And they didn't think it was great to be original. They thought it was great to give people what they wanted, which was the stuff they already had, and just sort of put your own spin on it or your own language on it, put it in poetry. We think it's really great if you come up with an idea no one's ever thought of before. And they said, who would want to do that? My daughter studied writing at Augustana, and one of her teachers said the goal, the job of a writer is to read and pillage other writers. Because there's only really a few plots in the world, and we've sort of reused them and taken them different ways. Plot. Okay, so let's talk about my least favorite story. I'm admitting it.
Little Heathcliff.
No, Patient Griselda. I just want to strangle Walter. I want to hit him and then run him over with a car because he's just bad. Walter, what are you doing? So this is the one to remind you, where he decides he wants to find out if his peasant wife Griselda, who has promised to do everything he says, will really keep her word. So he takes away their child, making her think the child is going to get killed. Then she takes away the next child, making her think the same thing.
So dumb.
children that he then sends to his sister, you know, to be raised to comfort and.
You're still missing all those
And
years.
then, and I know. And then tells Griselda that the people don't like her because she's too poor and he's gonna get married again.
Oh, yeah.
And he makes her leave. He makes her leave the palace just wearing what would be the equivalent of a slip. You know, all her nice clothes were his, so she has to give them all back. And go home to her little peasant house with her dad. And then, oh my goodness, of course he's not really getting married, it's all it happens. It's their daughter that he's bringing, this is right. He asked her to come and decorate the palace for the wedding. This is the one that gets me. Oh, Griselda, you know how I like things. How about you come decorate everything for the new wife? This is where I want to smack Walter. But I can't because he's a fictional character. Should we test the people we love to see if they love us?
No.
No,
No.
it's dumb.
No, that's just stupid.
Like,
Idiotic.
Does it feel like it's really love if people do it because they know they might be tested on it? Is love something we test? Math is something we test. Love doesn't seem like something we test. What might have happened?
They could have seen their children go. What? No.
Okay, if he hadn't done any of this, hey guys, please listen. I want to finish this. Hey guys, over in the corner, Jaden, Xander, please stop, please, because we've got about 40 minutes, and I'd like to spend another 15 or 20 minutes here, and then I'm hoping for 15 or 20 minutes of stuff I'm going to read to you, and I guarantee it's going to make you laugh, because it's ridiculous. And I brought it just for you guys, all right? What might have happened, let me phrase it a different way. What could Griselda have done? She was obedient and meek and did everything. What might have happened though? What do you think, Warren?
She's like,
No. Yeah,
so true.
okay.
My honor.
So if she says no, what does Walter think? Walter thinks she lied. She's not going to obey anything I do. Walter seems oblivious to the fact that there's certain things you just can't do to people and expect them to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go really extreme. I'm a mom. I can't imagine what it would be like for somebody to come in and take my babies and say, insinuate they're just going to kill them because nobody wants them. She could have gone crazy. She could have become violent. There's so much danger here. He was really pushing the limit. Here's the thing that stumps me. Does Walter seem like a good ruler otherwise?
Yes.
He's described, at the beginning of the story, it says all the people love him, and they just want him to get married because they want there to be a little Walter, to take over after he's gone. We love you. We want you to have a good wife and be taken care of. And he says, you have to promise that you'll be okay with any wife I want. Like, okay, we promise. They love him. But here's something that just occurred to me. Walter said to the people, you have to go with any choice I make. Walter said to Griselda, you have to go with any choice I make. Just trust people. You trust people. What do we call that kind of character who makes people do whatever he says? What are we, bossy?
Annoying.
Certainly annoying. Rude.
Insecure, yes.
Insecure. Maybe a little proud too. Like, I know better than all of you, so you have to do anything I say. Snobby. I like that. So maybe Walter's not the guy I thought.
He's a Karen.
Okay. Oh, I need to get rid of all these words.
He's a child.
You would be a Kevin.
All right. You guys, somebody tell me what a plot is.
It's the thing that.
Not a place to get
tells
married.
the Story and it's, yeah,
Say it again.
how the story goes.
How the story goes. This is very good. What happens in a story? And plots have something similar to all of the plots, and this is it. They start with some sort of beginning. We're going to call it, they like to call it exposition. This is a fancy word for set the stage. You know, give you background information that you need for the story. And then you have rising action. Things ramp up, right? Things happen.
I think
And then you get to the climax of the story. This is the